I know that you will be blessed by it. I know that it will be informative. As we're setting up, just to let you know that we have been interested, and we are interested in our health, and sometimes we don't treat ourselves right with our foods, and we know that America, we have the standard American diet, which is called the SAD diet. We got McDonald's on the corners and the Burger Kings and all these different places on the corners, and so we know that a lot of that is not healthy. So, but we're grateful. I've been on my own journey with something called intermittent fasting. We're not talking about it tonight, but so the past couple of years I've lost a good 60 pounds, and well, while we're preparing for this, intermittent is like you eat within a certain hours of the day, 8 hours, or from maybe like 12 to 8 o'clock, 8 p.m. or something, 12 a.m. to 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. That's an 8-hour window. And so there's some advantages to that. Then the lower, the less the hour, 6 hours, 4 hours, whatever, the better it is for you. And so that helped me. But recently, we've been having some interest in the keto diet. And so we're going to talk about that tonight. We're excited that Keto Keisha is here with us. Let's give her a hand. We thank God for her and for taking the time to be with us on tonight. She's been on this journey, and she can tell her story, hopefully, and tell us her journey in keto, and she can tell us about. I think you have a location now. She has a store.
We're still in the process of moving, but I am going to get this out.
Okay, she'll tell us about herself on her website, and she coaches. She does all this. She does a lot of great things, and it has also blessed her in the past few years to be able to be a keto person. So we are not going to delay long. Maybe she'll entertain a couple of questions, and then we'll leave that up to her tonight. And I think she has some samples with her tonight. So without further ado, I have some wipes around here for you to wipe up. We're still in the COVID season. So we welcome all who are watching us by social media, and we're on Facebook tonight and our YouTube channel. And so those who are with us by those mediums, do share. Share it as we're going forth, because this is valuable, and it will be profitable to everyone tonight to tune in. So again, without further ado, we will present to you Keto Keisha from right here, right there in Columbia, South Carolina.
Amen. I thank you guys for the opportunity to come. Anyone who knows me knows that I just love talking about keto. I'm just grateful that God chose me for this assignment to share. So I always count it joy anytime anyone ever invites me. So because I just love teaching people that we can heal from eating. Our bodies were created to heal. So we're going to talk a lot about that. Of course, my computer is acting up a little bit, but we're going to go right on ahead. Hopefully, it'll start up in a little bit, but we're going to go right on ahead. First, we're going to do, before I introduce myself, in order for me to kind of gauge where you guys are, we're going to do just a little icebreaker. So what I want you to do is name a healthy food that starts with the first letter of your first name. So this kind of lets me know what you think healthy foods are. Let's see, we can start in the back.
Sweet potato,
Your name. And yours is a sweet potato. Okay, we're gonna go right on ahead. No, I didn't say kale. Kale. That's a good one. Okay.
And say red cabbage.
Red cabbage?
Yeah.
I love red cabbage.
And my name is Mary. I'm trying to think all I can think of her. Rosemary.
Rosemary. That works.
Patricia potato.
Okay. What about you?
Yeah, food. Yeah.
Spinach. Spinach is a good one.
I don't know. I think it's Mary.
Your name is Mary.
I don't know. Mango?
Yeah.
That's healthy?
Maybe. We'll talk about that.
I'm gonna say sauerkraut.
Sauerkraut. That's a good one. Okay.
Brenda, I said baked chicken.
Baked chicken. Okay.
Eat a pear.
Beef with pear. Pear's healthy.
Yeah, pear. You get it hard.
Now I know how to spell it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Go ahead. Martha.
Martha.
You can't think of anything? Okay. What about you?
I'm saying strawberry.
Strawberries. Okay. What about you? What'd you say?
Nigel.
Nigel. But you can't think of anything with an N? Nuts. That's a good one. Okay. But are they as healthy as we think they are? We'll talk about that. Okay, go ahead.
I like carrots.
Carrots. Okay. Can't think of anything. Okay.
Tiffany turns.
Cool. So I usually like to do that because it kind of gives me an idea of what people think are healthy foods. Because I know for a long time the things that I thought were actually healthy, I came to find out they actually weren't. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. I'm still working with my computer, but we're going to go right on ahead. To tell you a little bit about me, my name is Keisha. I am a certified ketogenic coach. I'm certified in keto coaching, certified in fasting, certified in weight loss management, certified in holistic pain management, and for the past couple of years, I've done extensive training in keto for cancer. So I work with a lot of people. And we actually have thousands of clients all over the globe. So I am very thankful. And anybody can tell you, this is my life. So I live, breathe keto. I believe in it. I believe in the healing ability. So what brought me to keto? And because that's usually the question, like, how in the world did you get started with that? Because if you had asked me, or if you had told me if you had even told me 4 years ago that this is what I would be doing, my answer would be to you, you must have lost your mind. Because there is no way. As a matter of fact, I actually just bought my first set of pots and pans 4 years ago. I was the one who bought all the paper products and canned drinks to every event. Now, I make everything from scratch. So I started keto back in 2018, March 1st, 2018. I had weight loss surgery first and gained almost all of the weight back. I had been studying keto the whole time. I actually found keto the time I had weight loss surgery, but didn't believe, because I was like, there's no way these people are losing this weight this fast. All of them are lying. So I had weight loss surgery instead. When I gained almost all of the weight back, I decided, let me give it a try. Let me see if it works. Blew my mind. So I started it and it just did extremely well. And for the first time, I had started a diet, because then when I first started, remember, it was just to lose some weight. So then it was the first time I had ever did a diet, so to speak, and I hadn't cheated. So Easter Sunday was coming up, and I had planned to go to brunch after service And I was gonna get me a reward meal because I had been doing good. First lesson number one, you don't reward yourself with foods. We are not dogs. So that's not what we do. So anyway, I wrote on a sticky note every single day about what I was gonna eat for my reward meal. So I go and I get a regular waffle with fried chicken with regular syrup. I'm gonna tell you right now, that was definitely not a reward. At that time, I had been on keto for a month, and my cravings had gone away. I was sick as a dog for about 3 days. I mean, extremely sick. But it was my light bulb moment. Because remember, I said my cravings had gone away. My cravings came back with a vengeance. And I said then, oh, you're an addict. And it hit me like a ton of bricks that I was actually an addict. So I began then to start thinking about how hard it is for other people just to come off all these other addictions and how judgmental I had been in judging everybody else who were addicted to drugs, and here I was addicted to foods, and it was the carbs. And I can remember saying to myself every day I woke up, because that scared me. The fact that I was an addict, I'm telling you, it just scared the daylights out of me. And I can remember waking up every single day, and a lot of times I even posted in my group now, and because I said it to myself, if you did it one time, you can do it again. Said it every day. And I repeated it as often as I needed to. If you did it one time, you can do it again. And I pushed through the cravings because it terrified me, because I knew and I understood, had I not been able to control that addiction, I was going to end up killing myself with my 40. And I didn't want to do that. After that, I was just posting. People were asking me, well, what are you doing? And so I just started teaching some people. And the craziest thing is, if the first couple of people I started teaching didn't even live anywhere near here. They were in North Carolina. We had this little group chat, and I was just showing them what to do. And it just actually grew from there. And I remember somebody saying, you might should look at this as a career or as a side job, because you're actually pretty good at it. And I said, well, let me pray about that thing. And as crazy as it seems, because usually when we pray about things, our prayer is, dear God, is this something you want me to do? No, it was, dear God, I know this ain't what you want me to do with my life. Can't be, because I don't want it. God knows us, and he meets us where we are. And he knew that he had to give me a definite sign, because had he not, I would have ran, because I didn't want to do it. He revealed it to me in a way that I couldn't deny. And I sat straight up I'll never forget, I sat straight up in the bed and I started crying. And every day since then, this has been my purpose. It has brought me so much joy. And he has laid it out, everything that I needed to learn in order for me to do this. So the message is, we want to make sure that everybody understands that even in our eating, we have to make sure our temples are one that honors God. That's something that we haven't really thought about in church. We talk about all the other things. We talk about the drugs. We talk about, the sex. We talk about the alcohol. But we really don't talk about the damage that we're doing to our temples when it comes to food. And one of the things I often mention is, we place a lot of emphasis on everything else, but when we look at the reasons for death in the United States, what we eat kills more than all the other things combined. All of them. Even the street drugs. So we have to pay attention. We got to start paying attention to what we're eating. Now, this would be a great time for my PowerPoint to come up, because it actually shows you guys all of these people who have done some amazing transformations. So hopefully it'll come up. But we're going to keep on going. Now, when we think about health, and we think about actually what is health, because a lot of us don't even understand what that actually is. Health is the cornerstone of so many things. Because I'm going to tell you, if you're sick in your body, you're going to struggle with everything else. You're going to struggle going to work. You're going to struggle how you interact with people. It messes up the way you even praise. Because if your knees are aching and your ankles hurt, you're going to have a hard time. This is also one of the places that the devil is attacking the body of Christ, and we're not paying attention, because we're paying attention to everything else. But when we look around, how many people you know with diabetes? How many people you know with hypertension? How many people you know with cancer? How many people you know with all kinds of diseases and illnesses? And our mindset in the church is to pray it away. Faith without work is dead. God will always do his part, but we have to do ours too. Now, we haven't been effectively taught what that is. I must admit, we unfortunately are under a medical system that believes in you go in, you tell them your symptoms, and they prescribe you a medication that covers your symptoms. It never addresses the root cause of the issue. It only medicates your symptoms. And then that causes something else, and we just keep stacking meds. But we're never getting home. We're never healing. We're just continuously getting sicker and sicker and sicker. So we have to learn a different way. There is something else that we can do. Now, so let's start talking about the root causes, because that's huge. And when I started learning, just how we were made and how we actually heal, I'm going to tell you, it was one of the most things that blessed me ever, because I really began to understand just how great and how awesome God is. Because we were created so well. Your body is was created to heal itself. The second part of that is, as long as you give it what it needs to heal. Sadly, I haven't met a lot of people who understand what that is. So we have to learn, how do we heal? How do I put my body in a position to heal? Because if it's not, then it's actually going to continue to deteriorate. Now, we bought into this whole mindset, this whole thing that the media taught us that, once we turn 40, everything goes down here from there. You start getting sluggish. You start gaining all this weight. Everything aches, and you just don't feel good. I bought into it. How many? Did y'all buy into it too? I did. I know I did. So I accepted it. I thought it was how what was supposed to happen. Guess what? No, that is not how it was supposed to be. They never told us it was coming from all these years that we were eating the sad diet, standard American diet. No, that is not how you were supposed to be. When I turned 40, I honestly thought the world was coming to an end. I was so depressed because I believed all that stuff that they told me. I'm getting ready to turn 50, and I couldn't be happier in my life because I'm in the best health I've been in my adult life. So no, that is not how things are supposed to be. So we're going to talk about some of those things. So let's look at root causes again. This computer's still acting up. It must just don't want to act right. I'm going to keep on working and keep talking. So let's talk about root causes. You know what? That's what they always say. You're always supposed to be prepared, because it's a good thing that God instilled it here, that I actually don't need this. I can actually tell you everything and answer any of your questions without this even coming on. So the devil think he's working that way? No, we just gonna keep right on going. Anyway, let's talk about the root causes of diseases. Start with one of the top ones. Who knows what the top reason for death in the United States is? Heart disease. Heart disease is the number one cause of death in the United States. How long has heart disease been the number one killer in the United States? A long time. How long have we been on this mission with low fats and lowering cholesterol? Long time. Heart disease still number one killer? Yeah. We've been on that journey for a long time, right? So nothing changed. Something actually did change. Actually, cholesterol levels in the United States are actually at the lowest they've been in decades. They don't tell y'all that part though. Cholesterol levels are at the lowest they've been in decades. What's still the number one killer? So how can it be the cholesterol? It's not even rocket science. That didn't even make sense. How can you still say that that's the number one cause of heart disease, but it's at the lowest level in decades, and heart disease is still the number one killer? Doesn't make sense. The thing is, it was never the cholesterol, was the root cause. Anyway, did you guys know that they actually removed the maximum amount of saturated fats that you could eat from the guys. They didn't tell y'all that either, did it? It's crazy how many times people come to me and say, hey, my doctor says I need to stop keto because my cholesterol is high. And I have to go back and say, can you please tell your doctor to go back to the guide from 2015, and he can see that they actually removed that recommendation. There is no longer a maximum amount of saturated fats you can eat for cholesterol because what you eat actually has hardly any effect on it. Your body actually makes the majority of it itself, and you need cholesterol. And the crazy thing is, again, it was never the root cause, but cholesterol can only harden as plaque if there's inflammation. So in that sense, inflammation is actually the root cause. So when we look at that, inflammation is the root cause. Remember, your cholesterol is going to flow as long as there's just cholesterol. It's going to flow all day long back and forth. But if there's inflammation introduced, what is going to happen to your cholesterol? It's going to start hardening your arteries, right? And that's going to actually end up leading to a heart attack. Who remember when we used to use lard?
Yeah.
Years ago? Do y'all remember young people having heart attacks? No. You did it. Back then, actually, heart disease was called an old man's disease back then because people only old men died of heart attacks. We didn't see anybody die of heart attacks. No young people? What about now? You see young people dying of heart attacks? Of course we do. Back in the early 1900s, I want to think it was like maybe 1928, 38, somewhere around in there, the American Heart Association was actually launched, and you can actually look it up. So anything I tell you, and I can send y'all links, you can look it up, and you can actually still look it up. This is a nonprofit organization. The American Heart Association was actually launched by Procter & Gamble. Gave them millions. That's when they told y'all to stop using lard because it was causing all these heart issues. Well, guess who makes these other oils that they told you to use instead? Procter & Gamble. And if you look at that, after they did that, that's when, and you can actually go back and look at it, the numbers for heart disease skyrocketed. They actually skyrocketed. Who knows what oil that the American Heart Association actually promotes and tells you to use? No, canola. Canola, right, the mazola, because it has the Heart Association stamp on it. Well, guess which oil is the most inflammatory oil of them all? Canola. Nobody with heart disease should ever, even if you don't, you should never be eating canola or taking canola. So we have to start learning these things. I had a class last night and I was telling them because they were, this isn't in there, but it's important. He said to me, well, Keisha, what other meats can I eat because I don't eat red meat? And I said, well, why don't you eat red meat? He said, because my family has a history of prostate cancer, and they said for me to not eat red meat. I said, who told you not to eat red meat? He says, well, they say it everywhere. It's like all on TV, it's in magazines, it's in everywhere. Rule number one, if you see it everywhere, somebody had to pay for it to be there. It didn't get on the TV for free. It didn't get in magazines for free. So you always follow the money trail. And if you look back, and sometimes you have to look back even a little further, because again, if you see some of these agencies that we thought had our best interest at heart, and you see them as one of the people who maybe funded it or maybe put it out there, you have to look even a little further. Who funded them? Right. And if it's people who profit from what they told you, then you probably ought to make sure that that's actually the right information. Because most of the time it isn't. Because they're pushing it and they're paying millions of dollars to push it out there for a reason. So, heart disease, it's not cholesterol. And I get so upset because people are dying. We're not talking about people just being sick. People are dying. And because I understand what actually causes it, it is hurtful. Because I know they know. When I started looking at this research, I'm gonna tell you one of the things that made me so upset. Because if you think the dates on the research was in the 2000s, no, we're talking about 1960s and 70s. So they knew, and they know. Next thing, high blood pressure, good old hypertension. We know so many people with high blood pressure and hypertension. And I always have people who come to me and say, Keisha, no, I can't do what y'all do. And I said, why? Well, because y'all be adding salt to stuff and y'all eat pork. And I have high blood pressure. And so I don't eat that anymore. And I always come back with, so you don't eat it anymore, but you still got high blood pressure? It doesn't even make sense. Like, nobody ever told us to think about it like that. So they told us that we were okay as long as we cut that out, and then it give us a pill and we think we're fine, but we're not. Because if I'm not eating it anymore, I actually shouldn't need the pill. Because you told me that's what was causing it. So if I quit eating it, why do I need this pill? Right. Root cause of hypertension. Carbohydrates. Carbohydrates causes your kidneys to hold on to sodium. So when that happens, when it causes your kidneys to hold on to sodium, your body will hold on to fluid and it will hold on to the sodium once you eat the carbohydrates. So it's actually not carbohydrates, it's the insulin spike. But the insulin spike comes from the carbohydrates. So it makes your body hold on to the fluid and hold on to the sodium, which makes your heart have to pump harder because there's too much fluid there and the sodium is still there. That increases your blood pressure. Anytime I have somebody that calls me and they say they have high blood pressure, if it's high, I actually stop what I'm doing and help them. And I always say, okay, I need you to listen to me, and if you're not gonna listen to me, you need to go to the doctor or go to the hospital. But if you're gonna listen to me, I'm gonna sit here and tell you how to get it down in days. First thing, cut the crap out. Cut all that out. Cut the carbs out, cut all of it out, and call me back tomorrow and let me know what it is. Call me back. If I'm good with the number, I'll say, let's proceed. If I'm not, I say, well, keep doing what you're doing, call me back tomorrow. And then, so when it gets to a point, and usually it's in a day or two, it gets to the point that I can add the second step. Second step is we have to regulate our electrolytes. What are your electrolytes? Potassium, magnesium, and sodium. So what do they tell you weren't supposed to have? Sodium. Well, guess what? You can live with so many things out of life. Salt isn't one of them. You can't live without it. The second part to the step to get your blood pressure under control is I have to get you to add sodium. Not the fake salt, though. Not the little girl with the umbrella. That's fake salt. Like, that's not going to work. Matter of fact, I posted that yesterday that iodine salt has sugar added to it. That's a recipe for hypertension. Because remember what I told you causes hypertension was the sugar increases your insulin, which makes your body hold on to sodium. So why would you ever put it in sodium? You shouldn't. So again, you don't do fake salt. Not going to do that. It has to be real salt. Sea salt would work. Pink Himalayan salt would be preferred. So when we look at it like that, so I tell them, I need you to increase your salt. I need you to make sure your magnesium is on point, your potassium is on point, and I need you to increase your salt. And they look at me like, wait, you need me to increase salt? I do, because a potassium deficiency will elevate your blood pressure. Some of you who are on blood pressure pills, they put you on potassium as well. So potassium deficiency will elevate your blood pressure, but guess what? If you're deficient in sodium, guess what happens? It starts to deplete potassium. So in order to make the second part work, you get your electrolytes have to balance. So you have to get it. And so let me tell you this, because a lot of people will look at people who eat keto because I have to add salt to my food, and they're like, you lost your mind. I don't know what you're doing. Everybody knows sodium is bad. And when I tell them sodium is bad for you, because you're continuing to eat all the stuff that makes your body retain these fluids. For me, I don't eat that stuff. So for me, I flush sodium out. So guess what happened to me if I don't add it to my food? I'm in trouble because I have a sodium deficiency. So for me, sodium isn't an issue. The only issue for me for sodium is if I don't get enough. So it's not. So that was never the issue. Some other things when we look at root causes. Diabetes. Well, they did tell you that diabetes was caused by the carbs, but the crazy thing is they always told you that it couldn't be reversed. They told you that they didn't lie to you though. They did say, well that part was a lie because it can't be reversed. But they did tell you that they were gonna manage it. The sad part about it is they usually manage it until you die from complications of it. They help you manage it for that long. And they never actually teach you how to reverse it. I look at some of the recipes and I go straight to the horse's mouth. I go straight to the American Diabetes Association. Yes, I'm calling them out. And I look at the recipes that they suggest for a person with diabetes. It has more carbs in it than I eat in a whole week in one recipe. And I'm looking at it like that is the crazy thing. So diabetes, let's look at it. Diabetes, what happens with a person with diabetes is they actually become what's called insulin resistant. It's not that they aren't producing insulin, they are. Their bodies is just resisting it. Now we have to have insulin. You have to have insulin in order to live. So when our body starts resisting it, and remember, insulin resistance comes from your body you're just eating too many carbs. If you're eating foods that constantly make your body have to require your pancreas to produce insulin, you develop a level of insulin resistance. So their thing was, in order to teach you, or in order to get you healthy, was to give you more insulin. Wait, what now? You mean, so my issue is the insulin resistance, and what causes it is anytime I get more insulin than I actually need, it actually makes my insulin resistance worse. So in order to fix that, you gave me more insulin? I had so many wait what moments. Like it was just crazy to me. Because you can't tell me out of all this technology and everything, you couldn't find something to fix the insulin resistance. But guess what? If they did that, would you have to go back? No, you wouldn't. So they continue to help you manage it until again, you end up dying from it. Now, when we look at diabetes, again, it definitely can be reversed. Don't let anybody tell you that it can't be reversed. Yes, it can. If you do the right thing, if you remove the carbs, you will actually start repairing the real issue, which is the insulin resistance. If you start doing other things like fasting, fasting is the best thing you can do to repair insulin resistance. The crazy thing is, how many times a day did they tell diabetics to eat? 4 or 5 times a day. What's going to happen every time you eat? You're going to secrete insulin. Right? Every single time you eat. So why would you ever tell a person who's diabetic to eat that many times a day, which is going to make their body produce more insulin, which is going to make the root cause of the issue worse? It is absolutely crazy. So no, we should have never been eating that many times a day. And y'all know, even when we weren't on diets, when we thought, I know all the time I thought I was on a diet and I ate those 5 and 6 small meals a day. I did that for years. And even when I wasn't on a diet, I ate 5 and 6 meals a day. Right. And when we add those sugary drinks in between, guess we were doing all day? Spiking insulin. So no, that's not what you were supposed to be doing. You can reverse it. I have clients who have had the diagnosis of diabetes removed from their charts. You can reverse it. Now, let's talk about cancer. So cancer was one of those things things, and again, I've been extensively studying cancer for probably, I know 2.5, well, probably closer to 3 now. And I'll tell you this, when God first revealed to me that he wanted me to work with cancer patients, I cried every day for a whole week. Every day. Because I knew and I understood not everybody was going to win that battle through living. And I kind of get attached to my clients. So I didn't want to do it. But I know if he gave it to me, I didn't have a choice. So I cried every single day. Again, he made sure everything was in my path that I needed in order to help people. So my prayer is always, God, please don't let me be so blinded. Please let me be open-minded so that I can hear, so that I can learn. So when people call me, that I actually know what to teach them. Because we're not playing with pant sizes then. We're dealing with some lives. And that's a whole different battle. So you have to know what you're talking about. What I learned over the years, because the approach with cancer is that we approach it as a metabolic issue, because it is. Cancer is a metabolic issue. When we even look at people who have it as a history, in their family history, my response always is, because y'all know we get caught up in that. No, everybody in my family has it. So I'm going to get it. Well, we eat the same thing. So of course I'm going to get it. And the thing is, genetics loads the gun, your diet pulls the trigger. So we can mitigate a lot of these things when we know how. Now, cancer. Again, when I first started with cancer, I was like, there's no way they're doing that with cancer. Because that's such a horrible disease. Like horrible illness. That's not it. I mean, at this point, I understood, with hypertension, diabetes, and heart disease, I got that. We're talking about cancer. Surely not there. Oh, surely they are. I'll tell you something. It takes, well, let me see if anybody knows first. Anybody knows how, or let me ask this first. Do you know how many people actually live with cancer cells in their body? Everybody. Everybody. Do you know how long cancer needs to grow in order for it to be detected on a test? 8 years. The cancer has to grow for most people, unless you have an extremely aggressive one. If you have an aggressive one, then it does, of course, it doesn't take 8 years. But for the most part, it takes 8 years to grow before it can be detected on a test. So when you go in, you get the diagnosis, and they say, we need to be aggressive, we need to start right now, and I need you to have start chemo next week. What we say is, wait a minute, because it's been growing for 8 years, so why I need to do this next week? And the other thing is, chemo not only breaks down your bad cells, it breaks down your good cells too. Because it is a huge toxin on your body. And there are a lot of people who actually pass away from complications from that, not the cancer itself. So the thing that we try to tell them is, wait a minute, give us a couple of weeks. Let's help them build their terrain. That's what we call it. Strengthen your immune system. Because everything that you eat, remember, affects your immune system. So let us help you do that. The other thing is, do you know what feeds cancer? Sugar. When I figured out what a PET scan was, I think I cried. So I am a crier, so you probably won't hear me say a lot. Yeah, I cried. So when I figured out what a PET scan was, I cried real tears, because to me that was evident that they know. If you ever had anybody who had a PET scan, what happens is they inject you with radioactive sugar, glucose, sugar. And they tell where your cancer is because it's actively eating that radioactive sugar. So they know. Sad thing is, if you've ever gone to, and I cried that day too. I might need to do something about that. Thinking about that. I've been in the place where they give chemotherapy. And there are rows upon rows upon rows. And I mean, they're all sitting there. What made me cry was they were feeding them chocolate cake. They don't have any idea. They don't know, but I knew. You're sitting here, you're tearing their whole body down, not just their bad cells, but their good cells too. And you're giving them things that feeds the cancer while you're doing it. So, the thing with cancer is, there is no research anywhere that says that cancer survives off anything but sugar. All of them. It used to be the thought that blood cancers didn't, but they do. The latest research in the past couple of years points to all of them have to have sugar to survive. So what happens if you remove the glucose from a person's body that has cancer? The cancer doesn't have anything to eat off of. So it starves itself and dies. Last week, and yeah, I cried this time too. I had a client. So I've seen these documentaries all this time where they use keto to help, and there's no other treatment. And again, my position is we use it as adjunct therapy, meaning we do it in addition to standard method of care, so we can help it. Well, I had a client who brought her brother to see me, and this was probably a little over 6 months ago. And I had a long talk with him, telling him all the things that he needed to do. She had been one of my clients forever, and so she was gonna fix him keto foods. And I was telling him other things that he needed to do because there are so many toxins, like you have to remove those too. So their position with him was his tumor was 8 millimeters, and they were gonna watch and wait to see where it was in 6 months. So he goes on keto, and he is good with it. When he goes back in 6 months, there's no tumor. He only did keto. If you remove glucose from the body, it will starve the cancer cell and it will die. No crazy treatment, no harmful toxins in your body. Now again, our position is that we don't use that as a replacement for him. That's what it was because he wasn't in any other treatment. But normally we use it as adjunct therapy to help. Because guess what happens if you are starving your cancer cells when you go in for chemotherapy? Now, granted, when you remove all these things from your body, it also boosts your immune system. It makes everything work better. So when you go in for chemotherapy, your body is strengthened and your cancer cells are already weak. So guess what happens if you do it then? It makes it highly effective if you do both together. So that's the approach then. Oh, another thing I found out was one of the reasons why they pushed it. You have any idea how much a chemotherapy one session is?
Oh my God.
Try 15. Right. Y'all, everything about the money in the United States. It really is. It's working. And I couldn't pick it up now yet. Finally. Do I need to do anything? Oh, yeah, okay. We're gonna keep going, and I hope he goes back here. Huh?
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Autoimmune diseases. There are a lot of autoimmune issues. You're talking about lupus, right? I mean, we know a lot of people with lupus. Hypothyroidism. I mean, there's just a laundry list of long autoimmune issues. What happens when you're in an autoimmune issue? Your body, that means that your body is actually attacking itself. So your body, and let's use hypothyroidism. So your body is attacking your thyroid. And so you go in and they actually start giving you medicines for your thyroid. But what was wrong with my thyroid? Nothing. Your body is attacking it. So the issue is your immune system. So why don't we help you fix your immune system? There was nothing wrong with your thyroid. Your body is attacking your thyroid, so they give you medicines to treat what your body is attacking. When the thing is, your problem is your immune system, because your immune system, your body is not supposed to attack itself. So you should be trying to fix your immune system. Again, they don't teach us a lot of that. Obesity. And that's one thing, Lord, we've been dealing with forever, because I know I've been on every single diet on the planet. I've taken every pill for weight loss, all of it. What I started learning was we have to learn to deal with that too. Because your body is storing fat for a reason. Well, nobody ever taught us like that. They just said eat this and try to be on a diet and you're supposed to lose weight. Well, what happens when we think of it from the concept of metabolic healing? Because my body is storing fat for a reason. So the thing is, I want to do is try to heal while my body's storing fat. So why is my body storing fat? Remember we were talking about that insulin thing? You know we need insulin. Well, when we have too much insulin, guess what? Insulin is a fat storage hormone. So when you're spiking a lot of insulin, once your body gets what it needs, it starts storing everything else as fat. Right? So again, that's one of the things we have to start repairing is the insulin resistance. And we have to get control of our body spiking all of this insulin so it does not store fat. I meant to mention this when I was talking about diabetes because it makes me so mad. Anytime I see people who are diabetic in the grocery store buying it, what do they tell you to use for sweetener if you're diabetic? Splenda and Equal. Right, the powder stuff, the blue pack and the yellow pack. So why do I use that? She said, I don't know. So this is tell you why I don't use it. Because the thing is, if it was healthy and sugar-free as it said, I wouldn't use it. This is why I don't use powdered Splenda and Equal. Every single one of them, and you can look at the back of it, has an additive in it called maltodextrin. So remember, with diabetes and with insulin, we want things that aren't going to do what? Spike high levels of insulin. Right, because high levels of insulin spikes makes my insulin resistance worse, and that's not what we want to do if we're diabetic. All foods have what's called a measurement on what's the glycemic index. The glycemic index measures how fast your body actually spikes insulin over a period of an hour. Regular table glucose or sugar, regular table sugar, it's called sucrose, not glucose. Sucrose, the glycemic index is 65. That additive ingredient that's in powdered Splenda and Equal, maltodextrin, is 110, almost double that of table sugar. So nobody who is diabetic should ever have that. If you look at the box, it says diabetic friendly. If you look on the American Diabetes Association website, they tell you to use that. That's what your doctor's telling you to use. Nobody should ever be using that. Spike is actually almost twice as bad as regular table sugar. You should not. And I have people who are like, wait a minute, this is why my blood sugar always up after my cup of coffee with supposedly sugar-free sugar. Yeah, you're exactly right. That's why it is. So, again, we got to learn. Fertility. Y'all know fertility is one of those things and it costs a lot of money. If you've ever known anybody who deals with fertility issues, it is expensive. The treatments are expensive. And people go through a long time dealing with it. And the other thing is it can be extremely hurtful. It can be extremely hurtful for people who want to have babies and then they can't. Most people who are dealing with fertility have what's called PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. And they've been treating that for years. They've been kind of treating it the wrong way. That's a direct result of insulin resistance, another one. So we have now where you have a lot of fertility doctors who are using keto for fertility. I had a client that came to me the other day and she was like, my fertility clinic is using keto. I said, I'm gonna tell you why. They're using it. Not because it's the cheapest, because it works better than anything they have on the market. Anything. So no, that's why, because it starts to address the root cause of your issue. Also, while I'm on that note, when we go back to cancer for a minute, when you're looking at cancer, if they give you treatments for it, so like chemotherapy, then they usually will use like one medicine. They're what's called markers for cancer. I think there are like 11 of them. And so one medicine on chemotherapy will only address one marker. Sometimes they'll use a combination, but the max that they can do with maybe 2 or 3, that will address 2 or 3 markers for cancer. Guess how many keto hits? Every single one of them. There's not a medicine on the market that can do what keto does. And it also, this is a little high tech. Every single cancer there is has an defective mitochondria. Keto helps to repair your mitochondria. So that it all works together. So again, you know, skin conditions, psoriasis, eczema. Yeah, I used to have eczema as a kid. And I even had it as an adult. And so they give you all these creams and stuff, and I hate seeing little babies and stuff just sticking in their skin with eczema. Did you know that was coming from what you were eating? Yeah. It's an inflammatory issue. So remember, there's that thing again, inflammation. So when we look at inflammation, if I'm continuously eating it and it's feeding into my skin, these issues, guess how I can heal that? By changing what I'm eating. They don't teach you that though. They just give you a cream and tell you to go rub that on or take an oatmeal bath. No. Kidney disease. And they'll often tell you that kidney disease can't be reversed. I had a client this week, matter of fact, she gave her final praise report today. I started working with her about 2 years ago. 2 years ago, they told her that she had kidney damage, and the kidney doctor told her that it could not be reversed. Can't be reversed, there's nothing you can do about it. Guess what she did today? Fired her kidney doctor, because guess who has one of the best kidneys he's ever seen in his life? That client. Right? No. Don't be so fast to give into what they tell you. Remember, there's a group of people that they find where they want them. There's no profit in you being sick. There's no profit in you being healed, and there's no profit in you dying. So as long as many of us, that they can keep in the middle area, that's where their profit is. Right. So no, it can't be reversed. Fatty liver. Have y'all ever heard of non-alcoholic fatty liver? Yeah. Right. So that's a lot of things now. And then people will tell me, well, no, you eating all that fat. Non-alcoholic fatty liver, that's going to make your liver fat. No, it's not. Non-alcoholic fatty liver is coming from what stores fat? Insulin. Right. So if I'm constantly eating foods that make me spike high levels of insulin, it starts storing it in my liver. One of the other things it starts storing there is fructose. In the United States, we eat a lot of high fructose corn syrup. It's in everything. And we eat a lot of fruits. So this is when we talk about those pears and those mangoes we were talking about earlier. Yeah. So fruits, actually, their sugar is fructose. Your liver can't even convert fructose. So it goes there, and it actually starts storing it as fat. So let's look at that for a little bit, because I know I usually have pushback from people who say, "Keith, you're not going to tell me that we can't eat fruits, and fruits aren't healthy. God provided us fruits." And I always say he sure did, and he provided it for us for a reason. But those first people on earth, when did they eat it? They had to plant it first. And they only ate it during harvest time. And it was at the time where it would prepare them and help store fat on their body to get through the winter time. How often do we eat fruits?
Every day.
Every day. Also, we can't even compare ourselves to them. Metabolically, we are just extremely unhealthy. So we've gotten to the point that we can't ever eat it, because we just aren't the same people who were back then. We eat so much processed junk, and we put all this stuff in our bodies all year long, and then when we add all these environmental toxins too, there's no comparison. We can't even compare ourselves to what they ate thousands of years ago, because we just metabolically are not the same people. We're just very unhealthy. And again, When your body breaks that sugar down from bananas and grapes and all those, it's the same exact molecule. That molecule looks no different from regular sugar, and it actually is still going to spike your blood glucose. What did our grandparents do who were diabetics? As soon as they got in the grocery store, went straight to the bananas. Right, because that's what they know. Potassium. I need my potassium. Should have been getting avocados and bell peppers instead. But they didn't teach them that. Right, but they didn't teach them that. So no, bananas have way too much sugar. All these things have way too much sugar. And it's the thing is, it's just nature's candy. It's just that much sugar, and your body processes it the same. Migraines. I usually have people who come to me about migraines, or they don't know. They come to me about other stuff, and they mention they have migraines, and I'm like, well, that's coming from all these sugars you're eating too. It causes a chemical imbalance in your brain, and so your brain starts to hurt. So you should not be eating all that. It actually will help you stop having migraines. Inflammation. That's a huge one. Inflammation is one of the also things that makes your body hurt. If you get arthritis, they give you an anti-inflammatory med. Again, that's toxic too. All those meds are toxic. You can eliminate arthritis just by stop eating inflammatory foods. Nobody ever taught you that way. So if we eliminate the inflammatory foods, and that would be those oils we've been using, those high starch carbohydrates and grains. They're highly inflammatory. Oatmeal, and I know I get pushback every time I tell somebody oatmeal is unhealthy. Right. Every single time. I know, I'm sorry. And they'll sit there. I've had people tell me no, because I eat that every day and my abs are rock hard. I never said you can't lose weight eating oatmeal. What I said was they were unhealthy. There's a difference. There's a difference between losing weight and a difference between you being healthy. We see skinny people die of heart attack. We see skinny people with diabetes. We see skinny people with hypertension. So we have to get off that mindset that is only for weight loss. Oatmeal is inflammatory. I can't tell you anything different. And if you ever want to question it, if you ever get near a glucose monitor, check your blood glucose, eat some oatmeal, and go check it again. You don't have to believe me at all. I guarantee you it'll be elevated. Irritable bowel syndrome, IBS, coming from what you're eating. Your gut is so important. So if you got all this stuff, remember, so in your stomach you have all this insulin being stored. Remember, because we should not be eating it. You got fructose in there that your body isn't digesting well. And you're adding inflammation in there, you would act up too. It's supposed to act up. We gave it everything that it didn't need. So it's supposed to act up. Seizures. In the United States, keto was actually developed to help seizures. And the thing is, the reason why it works is for seizures, and this is one of the things that it works for migraines too, is you have all these receptors, and they just going off like a ping pong. It calms it down. It makes that chemical imbalance relaxes. And so people who actually go on keto don't need seizure meds anymore. That's actually one of the reasons it was started in the United States. Alzheimer's and dementia. That is one of the most heartening diseases, because when your loved ones don't know who you are, that is heartbreaking. That's actually starting to be called type 3 diabetes. What happens is your brain becomes insulin resistant. That's that thing with insulin resistance again. So if glucose is your fuel source and that's what you're eating, then is your brain getting fueled? No. Even when your brain becomes insulin resistant and it's not getting fueled and glucose can't reach your brain, ketones can. And so your brain actually starts getting the fuel that it needs, and the research there is absolutely remarkable. You see people who were sitting there, couldn't do anything for themselves, become verbal again, they're moving around, they're taking care of themselves because their brain is getting naturally the fuel that it needs. Depression, that's that chemical imbalance again. And I often try to tell my clients, because the reason they fall off, or the excuse they give, because it's an excuse, is, oh, I was just imbalance. And what happens is it feels good for a minute because it releases dopamine. So it releases dopamine in your brain and you start to feel good, but only for a minute. Y'all know what else releases dopamine? Cocaine. Right. But when we look at it, sugar is actually more addictive than cocaine is. And you'll have people who will say that, well, cocaine is actually very worse. And I say, how do you compare death? Would you rather die fast or slow agonizing death? Because that's what we're choosing. Right. Dandruff. Did y'all know dandruff was coming from what you were eating?
What?
Yes, dandruff is coming from what you're eating. So if you go to the beauty salon, they're going to tell you, we're going to use all these as a fungus, and I'm going to use this. It is a very small percentage of people that is actually coming from a fungus. Majority of the people is coming from insulin resistance. And what you should be asking yourself is, why is my body depositing so many skin cells, dead skin cells on my scalp? Because it shouldn't be doing that. Coming from what you're eating. Skin tags and moles. Did y'all know that? I used to think I was going to be like my grandma and the older people who were at church, and I thought I was going to have all these moles because I had a lot of them like in my younger years. And they started disappearing once I started keto, and I'm like, what in the world is going on? That is a sign of insulin resistance. Moles and skin tags are a sign of insulin resistance. If you start reversing the insulin resistance, they fall off. They go away. And you don't have, what did they used to say, tie hair or something around?
Yeah.
You don't have to do that. You can actually eat right and they'll fall off. Menopause. Somebody said, oh. Because that's one. Majority of my clients are of the age. So that is something that we talk about often. And if you go to the doctor, they're going to say your hormones are out of whack. And so they just try to give you these synthetic hormones that mess you up even worse over time. It might help cover the symptoms, but over time it messes you up any worse. Why are my hormones out of whack? This came from what I was eating. So if I eat to balance my hormones, and you can, and there's a certain way of fasting you can do to help balance your hormones, because what happens is you start getting those body parts that regulate that out of whack, your adrenals, your mitochondria. If they're out of whack, guess what? Your hypothalamus is looking like, wait, I don't have any, so I need to produce heat. And that's what it starts doing. You can balance those out by what you're eating. That was one of our praise reports last week, too. I told this young lady what to do. She sweated. It was driving her crazy. And she posted one day last week, Keisha, my hot flashes are gone. Right? We weren't meant to live in agony. We were supposed to have a peaceful life. God meant for us to live good. We're not supposed to suffer. Remember, we were created to heal ourselves, but as long as we give the body what it needs, again, we haven't been taught what that is. But he meant for us to live abundantly. Remember, he told us that. We just didn't know what that looked like when it came to everything. That made it help too. So, all of these things that we look at, and in our community, because I have to address it, we don't like to give up taste on foods. Just being honest. One of the things I try to tell people is everything, there are alternatives for everything. And I always say God chose me for a reason, because I couldn't cook. I was one of the worst carboholics in history. And I had an excuse for everything. So, am I okay with giving just up a little bit to make sure that my body and my temple can be one that honors God? Yeah, I can. The human palate can and will be changed. So if it's something you don't like, what I usually say is wait a couple of weeks until that sugar addiction get off of your tongue and try it again. I guarantee you it tastes a little bit differently. So can we give up these things in order to make sure I'm walking fully the way God wants me to? That I just didn't correct these other areas, or make sure I didn't do those. But then my temple wasn't one that was honoring God because I was still continuously damaging it by what I was putting in it. Right? So can I give those up? I can. Because remember, we have to pray about everything. You have to pray about this journey too. Now, and that's one thing I did. Y'all remember when I told y'all about that realization that I was an addict? I prayed that prayer and I said, Lord, you got to take this taste away from me. Because if not, I'm going to kill myself. And I can't do it alone. And I usually tell people that's the reason why I don't even eat keto treats. The treats I have y'all some treats. Treats I bought y'all, I don't even eat them. And when people ask me why, God answered my prayers. He did exactly what I told him to do. I asked him to take the taste away from me, and that's what he did. Now, I realize he's going to always do his part. Faith without work is dead. That means I have to do mine too, because guess what? Just like any other addiction, if I dip back in it, guess what happens? It comes back. Comes back. So, I stay away from it. Matter of fact, I posted this morning. Somebody had sent it to my inbox, and because they were admiring my dedication, and I quickly corrected them. What you see is not dedication. What you see is fear. Fear because I can't go back to where I was. The relapse terrifies me. So I use this so I don't relapse on my addiction because I can't. And remember, we have to learn to stop putting commas where God put a period. Because I used to say recovery, now I say recovered. Because there's a difference. Not going back. I'm good. Now, also in our community, what we have to realize is that being healthy is okay. When people ask me what was the hardest part of my journey, I always say everybody around me. And they're like, how is that? You gave up all that stuff and the hardest part was everybody around you? You have no idea how many times I was ridiculed because I bought my own bag to an event and I chose not to eat what everybody was eating. But what I came to realize was we do that when we make people uncomfortable because then it's convicting you on what you're eating. And when people are uncomfortable, that's how they lash out. But now, what we also have to realize that I can't be apologetic for making sure my temple is one that honors God. I wouldn't do it in any other area of my life, so I can't do it there either. So I continue to carry my bag at every event I went to, and you just had to deal with it. Because the other thing is, if I don't respect it, nobody else around me will respect what I chose to do either. So I have to respect it. How do you start? You make the decision. Because it starts there. It starts there with everything. And you also, I usually say, try to give a reason why. Because if your why isn't big enough, your excuses always will be. And your why can change. My why's changed over the years. At first, my why was because I wanted to lose some weight. Then my why was because I wanted my children to do it. Because I wanted them to be healthy. Because, of course, when we learn how, we can be healthy, we want everybody around us to do it. Now my why is to break generational curses. I'm a generational curse breaker. My goal is for when I do have grandchildren, I hope that's along with you now, that my grandchildren will not be checking a box for pre-existing conditions on their grandmother's side. That's how we break generational curses, and we can. We can. It's bigger than you. You can start the journey, but everybody connected to you can be blessed by it. Because they not only see how you're changing, they see how you feel better, they see how you can praise better, because you can drunk higher if your knees don't hurt. Right? Everything just feels better. I had one lady tell me, it feels like every day I wake up is a holiday. I was like, that's amazing. To feel that good. I don't ever want to go back to feeling sluggish, feeling tired, aching all the time. I don't ever want to go back and relapse on this addiction. I'm truly grateful. I'm thankful. That's why I spread it, because I understand and I know what's been taught is not the correct way. We have to each one teach one, and that's how we spread it. Now, do you guys have any questions? And I can answer just about anything. Yes.
I have a question. When you were referring back to the red meat,
Mhm.
I've heard that red meat sits in your colon for.
I knew you were gonna say that.
So I wonder.
And that's the thing that they say, and he asked that question too last night. He said, well, I heard it doesn't digest, it takes a long time to digest. And I said, well, what's wrong with that? He's like, what do you mean? Well, what's wrong with that? Because if it takes it longer to digest, that means I stay satiated longer. Satiated means I'm satisfied. The other thing is, we can't blame these new diseases on things we've eaten thousands of years. We've been eating beef thousands of years, and cancer didn't exist. It didn't all of a sudden start creating cancer. It's all the other stuff we were eating. And every single research study that you see, every last one of them that you see that's going to point to cancer as the culprit, they were also eating carbohydrates. And I usually tell them, and I know I probably shouldn't do that, but I usually tell them I say, go find the research that says it's bad without carbohydrates. I happen to know it doesn't exist. And they usually always come back with the one that includes the carbs. No, this is the one that includes the carbs. So no, it's the carbs. There's nothing wrong with it. Go.
I
Go ahead.
got a question. Now with the beef, I know, should you get like organic cow fat steak or the ones?
I was gonna say that.
So
Right.
it needs to be
Now the
right?
preference would be grass-fed. But again, what I tell people is, if you cannot afford grass-fed, the better thing would just be to cut all the other stuff out and get real food, real meat, not the plant-based stuff. That's a chemical mess. So you want to get that. Now, the thing is also, because one of the concerns is, well, how much is this going to cost me? Because healthy foods are expensive. And I mean, you ask that question a lot. And I always say, your real question should be, why is junk food so cheap? That's because they get it tenfold on the other end when you end up in a doctor's office. Because they all work together now. So they get it on the other end. The thing is, my grocery bill now is a fraction of what it used to be. Why? Remember, when you're eating foods that spike a lot of insulin, guess what? Insulin also creates hunger. Lay's had it right. You just can't eat one. So you continuously eat all day long. Remember, we were eating 5 and 6 meals a day. All day long. Now I eat 1 or 2 meals. That's it. No snacks. My grocery bill is a fraction of what it used to be because I don't require food all day long. Now, my 1 meal is going to be a good meal. So I eat a lot when I eat, but it's satiated. Remember, satiated means satisfied. So I don't eat around the clock. So I'm also not doing what? Spiking insulin around the clock anymore. And I'm not hungry. Because the key is we fixed hunger. Because if you're hungry, you're struggling. You can't do that. If you're hungry, if I have anybody who comes to me and they tell me they're hungry, I don't care what else you're doing, we got to fix hunger first. Because you're struggling if you're hungry. Right. But we can do that. And the thing is, once I fix hunger, guess what? I'm fine with eating 1 or 2 meals a day and no snacks. So I don't require meals all day, so my grocery bill is a fraction of what it is. Yes?
What's your typical one good meal that you make?
My typical one good meal. I'll explain mine, and I'll explain why, and then I'll explain why one of my clients. So I'm actually mainly carnivore. Carnivore means, right, y'all, she thought she was going to fall just now. Most people never hear that. Right, so most of the time I only eat animal products. My A1C last time I checked was a 4.6. My blood pressure is normally like 115 over 65. My blood work has convinced some doctors that, hey, this might be something we need to look at because I'm the healthiest I've been and I only eat meat majority of the time. No,
You only eat meat?
yes. Now that I graduated to that, so a lot of people that we see who've been on this journey for a long time, some of them, not all of them, some of them end up migrating to carnivore. Carnivore is definitely a newer concept. But the reason why I chose to stay on it was I've never felt better in my life. I thought I felt good on keto. Carnivore was a whole different story. And don't let anybody fool you. Every single plant has a toxin. I don't care what they tell you. It does. Now, my typical meal, I love bacon.
Oh,
And if my clients look and everybody in my group knows I love bacon and I eat it every single day. So normally, and remember, I'm hardly ever hungry either because we fixed hunger. So food used to have this huge control over my life. So now I could care less. Like as long as I get some fuel, I'm good. So normally, and I can eat this every single day, and I'm just totally fine. I can eat bacon with 3 eggs scrambled with some paper jack cheese, and I'm good. And that might be my one meal for the day. I might not eat it anymore until the next day. So that's me. But again, I've been on this journey for over 4 years. So that's not typically what most of my clients eat. So my clients, a typical meal for them might be a ribeye steak with some asparagus, with broccoli and cheese, any like vegetable that's non-starchy. So basically we choose a meat and a vegetable. When I first started meal prepping, I used to do, because remember, I didn't know what I was doing, for one thing, because I just started cooking. I used to choose, because my mind was how we normally ate was a meat, a starch, and a vegetable. So when I first started meal prepping, I used to do a meat and 2 vegetables. And then it dawned on me, you're doing 2 vegetables. Why are you going through that problem? Just do 1 vegetable. So now if I cook vegetables, that's what I do. Now I did eat sometimes on the weekends I'll eat vegetables. So Sunday I had surf and turf. So I had ribeye with shrimp. I had broccoli and cheese and a salad. That was my meal. So that's good. Who can't eat like that every day? Right. You eat it every day.
Go back to the fruit.
Go back to the fruit.
Because I'm a fruit eater.
Right, I was too. And I'm telling you, I didn't think I was going to be able to give up watermelon because I love watermelon. Now, I can have a chunk of watermelon, but I know that would be an issue for me. So if anything even looks like a trigger for me, I choose not to do it because remember, I approached this with an addict mindset. So I just can't eat a piece of watermelon. And the thing is, the things that you think you'll miss, you actually won't because remember, our palates can and will change. So I don't miss any of them. You can eat berries. So berries would be fine. Blackberries, strawberries, raspberries, blueberries. Yep.
But any melons got more sugar than these.
Melons have more, and like I said, you can have like a chunk, but I don't know many people who can stop with just a chunk. Right. So the thing is, and I always do the mindset, if it's not in the kitchen, I can't eat it. Right. So that's how you control it. If it's not in the kitchen, I can't eat it. And I will say this too, because oftentimes we're not thinking about children, because we think of this as a diet instead of a healthy lifestyle. Well, we should be wanting our whole family to be healthy. Quick question, and I know we probably run out of time, but I'm sorry. Who knows the fastest growing age group for obesity in America? What age group is? Preteen. 17?
Oh, no. In that
Teens group. No. Actually, children ages 3 to 5. You know what's so significant about that is they don't fix their own plates. They don't buy their own food. They don't decide what they're eating. So who's doing it? Parents. Also, type 2 diabetes, which is the one that's caused by what you're eating, is growing at an epidemic rate in children. So we definitely have an issue. And I'm gonna tell you how we have an issue. Y'all remember when we go out to lunch and we eat all these carbs, the French fries and all that stuff? What we do when we get back to our desk? Go to sleep. Right, and we struggle. But we gave our kids that same meal, and we expect them to be vibrant in class and learn. When you think about that, really. Right. Put things again into perspective. And Pastor, I'm sorry, but I usually have to bring it up when we in church. I'm sorry, because I have to be obedient. Right. What about when we just had a funeral But we just eulogized a person who died from dietary illnesses, diabetes, high blood pressure, strokes, heart disease. And we prayed over this food that caused that, and we sent the whole congregation back to
Two
Fried chicken, fried sugar.
Right. And so I usually say, well, when we pray over heroin and then say, well, we just blessed it and it's okay.
There is a replacement for sugar. Anything sweet.
Huh?
Is there a replacement for sugar?
Is there a replacement for sugar? Yes. There are a lot of replacements. I just upgraded. I'm telling you right now, trying to navigate the world of low carb and keto is harder than it ever was before. It is so much harder than it was when I started, because the food industry wants a piece of it, and they are very deceptive. My sugar list of the culprits that would cause you issues used to be, there were 56 things on it. I just upgraded it about 2 weeks ago. It now has 192. Right, 192. And that's because the food industry wants a piece of it. So they put all these things to trick you in it. So you think to buy it. But there are sweeteners that we can use. Honey is not one of them. I don't care what anybody say. Honey, the glycemic index. Remember, glycemic measures how much insulin you produce over. The glycemic index is high. And if you correct all the other stuff, you don't need honey to correct anything in your immune system anyway, because it's functioning at optimum level. So no, the sweeteners that I use most of the time, I love monk fruit and allulose are my favorites. Monk fruit and allulose are my favorites.
Say it again.
Monk fruit, yeah, monk fruit and allulose are my two favorites.
I've heard of allulose, not allulose.
Allulose is more of a new one. Now, for the monk fruit, all the monk fruits that are in the stores, it's a blend of monk fruit and erythritol. For people who can't do a sugar alcohol, I usually suggest allulose. Allulose is natural. It's a natural plant. So, and most grocery stores sell it now. So I love that. Allulose. 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 That's my favorite, probably. Stevia is fine. I'm not a stevia fan, but it's definitely approved. For people who either you like stevia or you hate it. There's usually no in between. For me, it has a bitter aftertaste. So that's the reason why I don't like it. But again, stevia is perfectly fine. That's just my personal preference. Any other questions? You can ask me anything. Yes.
Okay, so I know they also have like noodles out that are vegetables. And you mentioned plant-based. Are some of those organic, or is that good to just digest at all? Because
No.
Okay, thank you.
So somebody sent me that the other day. Because remember, the industry they're real sneaky, and so they'll push things in the form of vegetables, and say, well, this is a noodle that's made out of vegetables. If you look at the ingredients, the main ingredient was wheat and flour, right? Which is inflammatory and no better than the other stuff we're using. So again, we have to be, vigilant. We have to have education. Remember, the Bible says, "My people perish for the lack of knowledge." So we have to be educated on what it is that we need to do. And honestly, it takes time. It took me years, to learn this. And I continuously study. I'm always in some type of class or some type of seminar or something, continuously studying. In my free time, I read medical journals. I don't even know who this is. But anyway. But we have to. If I'm going to be able to answer questions, that's what I have to do. You have a question?
Well, flour, that's another thing, big thing. A lot of things people done is they want flour, potassium flour. I know there's substitute flour.
Right. There are substitutes for flour. If I were to fry you some fried chicken, you would never know the difference. And yes, I still eat fried chicken, and yes, I still eat fried pork chop. So what am I using? And she looked at me like, what? You're meat eater. Yeah, so right. But remember, I'm only eating in a way that's healthy. I wouldn't even give, I can't even give a person who doesn't eat this lifestyle anything unhealthy, because that's just how convicted I get. So how do I fry my pork chop and chicken? I use this flour that's called, see it in my head, lupin flour. You have to order it. There are no grocery stores around here that carry it. Lupin flour. Right. Lupin. Lupin flour. And so that's what I use on my chicken and on my pork chop, and I fry it in lard. I buy lard by the big bucket. I fry it in lard. Lard, there's nothing wrong with saturated fats. The crazy thing is the things that they told you to use, vegetable oil that doesn't have any vegetables in it, the canola, all those things are inflammatory. They used animal fat forever. Nothing happened to them. They didn't have heart disease. Right. I mean, and when you think about it, when they tell it to you like that, it's like just common sense. Young people didn't die when they used it. I mean, they did, but not a heart disease. Right. I had to correct myself. Yes.
So is there any kind of oil that is okay to use?
Lard. Yes, I use lard.
Anything other than lard?
So if you don't eat, because there are some people who don't eat pork, and usually if I have somebody who comes to me and say, well, I don't eat pork, and I say, is there a religious reason? Then if it's a religious reason, I leave them alone. But if it's for health, I always educate them. Because it's not the culprit that they said it was. Remember, I eat beef and pork every day. My numbers are amazing. So the beef alternative to pork would be tallow. Or you have to find anything with a high smoke point, but they become very expensive. Lard is the cheapest. You could use avocado oil, has a high smoke point, so you could use it, but that would be some expensive fried chicken. The other thing is, once you heat it, you can't reuse it again. Because once you heat it, it changes the molecular structure of it, and then it becomes inflammatory. So you can't use it after you've used it. And guess what, y'all? Y'all remember when Grandma used to have that can on the thing for bacon grease?
Yes, I still got it.
You doing right, because that's what you should be doing.
Yes.
I now save my bacon grease. So one of the things we gotta think about, if we think about some of the things that I've said, guess what I'm doing? Going back to the way we cooked years ago when there were no health issues. Right. Just cutting out this processed, all these carbs, because Grandma and Grandpa, they didn't eat all the sugar we eat, or none of this processed stuff either. Yes, ma'am.
In the grocery store, they're selling the Keto Bread. What do you think?
It's made with wheat and grains. That's one of those industry treats. Yeah, I make my own bread. And remember, I couldn't even cook 4 years ago. So if I can make bread, anybody can do it. And remember, I make everything from scratch now. And the crazy thing is, when I was growing up, and even when I was married, because I was married for a long time, I was always around people who were amazing cooks. My mother-in-law was an amazing cook, and I can remember her trying to teach me how to cook, and I remember sitting there saying, I don't know why she's telling me this stuff, because I'm not going to cook it for her son. Right. But the crazy thing was, God always puts you where you need to be. And when I started cooking, all those memories came flooding back, just like it was yesterday. And I just got in the kitchen and started doing it. I can my own preserves now. Like I make blackberry preserves and strawberry preserves. And the first time I did it, I'm standing there in the kitchen and I'm doing it, and my mind goes back when I was a little girl and I was watching my grandma do it. And I sat there and I stopped and I said, Lord, who is this person? Because I don't know her, but I love her. Right? I don't know her, but I love her. I love who you created now. So, right, we can learn. And one of the other things is, and I'm cut it off. People will tell you, because when people hear me say that I make all this own stuff, my own stuff, and they'll sit there And they'll say, well, who has time for that? Somebody said that out there. Y'all said that? So this is the thing. I always say I had to learn myself. I had to learn to love myself enough to make sure I made time for it. Because we make time for everything else and everybody else. So if I love myself enough, if I love God the way I say I love him, that means I take the time to make sure that I'm doing the things that makes my temple one that can honor God. So this is an example I use, and then we'll cut that off. Anytime they make something for you and make it easy for you, you can best believe it's going to shorten your lifespan. The one I usually use would be pre-made sausage patties. Pre-made sausage patties. They all have that ingredient. Just about every last one of them. There's only one, and I'll tell you, Swaggerty's is the only one that doesn't have that ingredient in the box, not the small pack. Right. The Swaggerty's in the big box. Right. So that one is fine.
Oh,
So when we look at what did you say?
oh, thank you. She can eat something.
So sausage patties that are already made, we put them in the pan. If I have a tube of sausage, how long does it actually take me to make patties out of it? Seconds. Right. So how much time are we actually saving? And what are we doing and damaging our life by these seconds that we're saving? I teach my clients how to make things very easy because I get it. You gotta take some time. I teach them how to make their own salad dressing. I can make salad dressing in 30 seconds, and it tastes better than anything that's on the shelf. And it's a lot healthier for me. Right. It only takes me 30 seconds to make it. We gotta learn to stop wanting things that are microwavable speed. That has gotten us in all this trouble in the first place. But if I know that I'm worth it, God values me. That means I gotta find value in myself in order to make sure that I'm giving myself the time that I need in order to make my temple one that honors God. And then I'm okay with it. And so when I'm around a lot of people saying, I ain't doing all that, and I say, that's fine for you. Right? I decided something different and I'm okay with it. Yes.
Someone on the live is asking, what about deer meat?
Deer meat. Deer meat is fine. I just don't eat it. I'm a country girl, but a lot of that stuff I just don't like. Deer meat is fine. The only thing is with deer meat is extremely lean. So in the leaner the protein, the higher the insulin spike. So, right, and that's something that we had been going to the grocery store and making sure we were getting 93.7. No, you should actually be doing 80-20.
With some fat? I mean,
Right. So that's the only thing with deer meat. You should probably try to balance it with some fat because again, the leaner the protein, the higher the insulin spike. Yes. Oh, you're fine.
I know you talked about the law. I also hear that you can use clarified butter or ghee.
Oh, yeah.
And that is, yeah.
I love ghee. So ghee is what you call clarified butter. And I used to use a lot of butter. I more recently switched over to start using more ghee. And I kind of cut back on some of the dairy. The thing is, we actually weren't designed to eat dairy past toddler age. We actually the only mammals who do. We're the only mammals who eat another mammal or drinks another mammal's milk. So our bodies were never designed to digest dairy past toddler age. Dairy is actually, or the milk was actually meant to provide you a lot of calories, a lot of fat, in order to make your body grow fast. Infants and toddlers. So what happens is over the years, because we weren't designed to eat that, they can be inflammatory for a lot of people. So you should not have a lot of it. Now, I didn't say take all of it. What I do is tell them, for some people, now, in the beginning, it wasn't inflammatory for me. It became the stricter I got. So now I've started to limit it. I started choosing ghee over butter because when we look at lactose. Lactose is the sugar that's in milk, and the protein enzymes that's in dairy. It is more of it in butter than it is in ghee. You can actually make ghee out of butter. If you melt butter and strain it, what you have that comes through the strainer would be ghee. That foamy that's on the top, that would be the protein enzymes and lactose that's left out of that butter. So if you have someone who is lactose intolerant or anything, and again, most of those things actually correct on keto by itself because we don't eat the lactose, which is the sugar. We don't eat a lot of those stuff. So that's why I chose ghee. And ghee, scrambled eggs with ghee in it is the best ever. And also, to tell you some other things that keto helps, your allergies disappear. Y'all know we live in South Carolina. My seasonal allergies are gone. I don't have a problem at all anymore. And I'm laughing anytime I see, and I shouldn't do that. That's wrong. Thank you, God. But anyway, when I see people talking about them being so bothered with all the pollen, and I'm looking like, doesn't bother me at all anymore. My seasonal allergies are gone. I used to have a fish allergy. Gone. I don't have it anymore. And I did an interview on my YouTube channel with Dr. Ken Berry. He is like one of the big keto gurus. And I asked him about it because I couldn't find any literature on it, but I know we have people all the time who say my allergy disappeared. Like I used to have a shrimp allergy and it's gone. I used to have a fish allergy and it's gone. Like, where is this coming from? What he explained it to me was he said that the allergy actually is still there, but our immune systems work so well that your body doesn't even respond to it. So again, we have amazing immune systems. I haven't even had a common cold in over 4 years. I used to be scared to say that because I'm like, man, if I say it, I'm going to catch a cold. But then I learned that it's a testimony. Not many people can say that they haven't been sick or had a common cold in over 4 years. Y'all, in January, I rode for 3 hours in a car with someone who was positive with COVID. My response was, oh, I know I got COVID. Like, there's no way I don't have it. Like, I know I have it. Y'all, I started preparing stuff and putting stuff around the house because I just knew there's no way you don't have it. I took 4 tests, 2 PCR and 2 over-the-counter. They all were negative. My client said, you need to patent what you eat because there is no way you rode in a car in the wintertime with somebody with COVID and you didn't catch it. I can't tell you. I took 4 tests. Any other questions? And I get it. This is definitely a different way of thinking. It's a lot, too. It takes a lot. The idea of that we can heal requires us to unlearn a lot of flawed information that we've been taught, to embrace and relearn a new way of thinking. Remember, you are created so well, amazingly well. And our bodies can heal itself, but we have to learn to do to give it what it's supposed to have in order for it to have. Yeah, what?
That's another thing. Be prepared for body that transition. Is it wrong?
The what now?
Your body transitions.
To keto.
Whether that's something called.
Oh, Keto Flu. Somebody asked me about that yesterday too. I said, that happens to people who don't know what they're doing. Yeah, that's totally, you do not have to catch Keto Flu. Keto Flu is an electrolyte imbalance. If you know how to correct your electrolytes, you do not catch Keto Flu. That is very, it's called Keto Flu. What happens is, remember, I'll tell you why. You remember when we were talking about how our bodies naturally, when we're eating carbs, it holds the fluid in? Well, when we cut out the carbs, it starts flushing it out. Remember I said it flushes my sodium out? Well, it's flushing potassium and magnesium out too. But you have to have those. So if you flush them out and you do not replenish them, you get sick. That's called Keto Flu. And I always say that only happens to people who don't know what they're doing. Okay. Because if you know what you're doing, you replenish electrolytes correctly, and you don't catch Keto Flu. The only transition that you would feel as far as discomfort would be when your body is switching over from a glucose fuel source to a ketone fuel source. So there may be a day or two that you're sluggish, but That's it. You're not sick. You're just sluggish. But that's because your body isn't using any fuel. But once you start using those ketones, I tell everybody else, it's like y'all burning unleaded gas and I'm burning jet fuel over here. Yes.
For anybody on Facebook Live in the audience, if they're interested in reaching out to you, how would they go about doing that?
If you want to reach out to me, the best way would be to email me. You can email me at Keisha, Kisha, at theketoboutique.com, TheKetoboutique.com. You can also look at our web address is www.theketoboutique.com. And on Facebook, I'm on Facebook as Keisha Morgan. So you can find me on Facebook. Our group on Facebook, all my social media channels are under Keto Coaching with Keisha. So you can find us there on social media. We have an amazing group, kid you not. Amazing group. Remember, ketones actually make you feel better. It balances out your mood, so everybody in there feels good, and everybody just wants to see you prosper and do well. We don't have issues. We all want to see everybody just do extremely well because you can. We know what it was like to live sluggishly and to live in a way that we didn't think there was much help. We thought that we were destined to be sick. That's how it was, and now we understand that that's just not the case. Any other questions? That's it. Well, again, I always count it joy. Anytime anyone asks me to come, I consider this my assignment. I take it very seriously. I study all the time to make sure that I can give people what they need and give them the right information. So I am extremely thankful. I'm grateful that you guys asked me here. It was indeed an honor. So thank you.
We have enjoyed Keto Keisha tonight. I got one more question. Shiwatachi Kunjat noodle.
What?
Okay.
Was that true?
It's like a noodle. It's a noodle
Oh.
made from the vegetable. Kunjat.
So konjac flour. Konjac flour is actually fine, but be careful. Some of those actually have other ingredients too. So you can do the miracle rice or the miracle noodle one is fine, and the palmini noodle one is fine. But yeah, konjac flour is fine. Yeah.
All right, that's something I use. It's like replacements for spaghetti. Or something.
Right. So there are replacements now. You don't have to give up anything. There is an alternative way to make anything you want.
Different texture. Different texture.
The words you said, I'm like,
But I'm gonna tell you, you know what my favorite is for spaghetti? Because I'm old school keto. I don't do a lot of that new stuff. Cabbage.
you just don't cook it all there.
You don't cook it all the way, and it mimics the texture more. I love cabbage lasagna. That is my favorite replacement for lasagna. Oh my goodness, it's good.
But you use all of the,
Yep, so I use the meat, the sauce. You gotta pay attention to. I use rail sauce, then I use the cheeses, and I use cabbage. I've given it to people who aren't even on keto, and they're like, "Man, this is the best stuff I've ever had." Yeah, it works.
Guys, let's give Keisha a hand. Just before we go, we want to test these samples out. Also, tonight was Sunday. Put your name in a pot. I'm going to give you, Keisha offers a lot of different things, so maybe an hour set. I think you do an hour session or something.
Actually, whoever wins, I'll give them a free program. Yeah.
All right, so.
And I give them the most expensive one. So it's I think it's $139. Maybe I'll
is
give
that
them.
the 8 week plan?
That is the me versus me program.
I was on Instagram and I saw an 8 week program.
It was what now?
Instagram?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was on the Instagram. We had a program, 8 week program.
I don't know what I have to look at.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll donate that one.
All right, all right. So put your name in the pot. We're gonna do it Sunday. Put your name in the pot. We're gonna she's off to do that one free, and probably a couple others that we'll take care of other sessions. So be there Sunday to put your name in the pot. Everybody stand. We're grateful. I'm so grateful to meet Keisha and what she is doing. And she's